going on, guys? Today we're working on this 1995 Polaris Magnum 425 2x4 flavor. Just picked this thing up off Marketplace a couple days ago. Got it for $600. I know the carburetor is bad, so I already got one of those ordered. We're probably going to start with that. We got all the body panels and the seat and the light and everything sitting over there off to the side. So let's take a look at it, see what we're working with. Like I said, I know our carb is bad. Didn't look into it a whole lot whenever I went to get it. I know it's got good compression. Sounds like it turns over pretty smooth. So let's bring y'all in a little bit closer and take a look at this thing and see what we got. So just kind of quick glance at this. It looks like we got some wiring that's been added. We got those two white ones. Look like they're leading towards the back somewhere. This red one looks like it's been pulled out of the loom. I know our battery is dead. Looks like the terminal is broke off of it in there, so we'll have to get a new battery. Believe these are the wires coming from the front there. It looks like they got them tapped into the tail light harness there. Looks like they run up to a 12-volt outlet up here on the front. Looks like they might have been using it to power this little spotlight here. We may end up just pulling all that off. Maybe throwing some LED pods down in the front there. It'd look pretty cool. Let's check our coolant here, see what we're working with. Looks like we got a little bit down in there. It's definitely low. I don't know if y'all can see that. Get that tossed back on there. Let's come over here and check our oil. See how that's looking. Doesn't look like we're showing anything on the stick. Maybe just a little bit right there at the end. May need to top that off if we get this thing running. Like I said, here's our carburetor that's on it. The guy that I bought it off of, he pulled everything off, all these body panels off, and pulled the carburetor off. We do have a key. Looks like we're missing some of our indicator lights here. There should be a reverse light, a neutral light, high-low beam light. I'm not sure what will go there. Here's our choke. Looks like we got 3,800 hours on this thing. Hours or miles? I believe that's miles, actually. All of our switches and buttons and everything seem to work okay. Shifter seems to work well. We got high, low, and reverse. Everything seems to go in and out okay. Like I said, this is a 2x4, so just rear wheel drive, no front axle or anything like that. We do have all of our body parts and pieces and everything right here. We got the gas tank. It looks relatively clean in there. Didn't see anything in there to cause concern. Got our gas tank surround, 2x4 Magnum. Top part of our air box. Front headlight and surround. Couple side trim pieces. And our seat seems to be in pretty good condition. Couple stains here and there, but no rips or tears. But let's get into this carburetor here. Get the new one put in. Like I said, I did order another one. Have a brand new Amazon carburetor over here, so I'm sure that'll need a little bit of fine tuning, but it's probably a better starting point than what we had on there. Comes with the filter, screws, a couple extra jets, I believe, and a boot going into our engine there. These like to tear a lot, and you'll never get it to run right if it's tore up. This one on here looks pretty good, but usually when I order a carburetor, I'll order that boot. Looks like we got a factory toolkit in here. Take a look at that while we're back here. So they've seen some weather. Looks like we got a lug nut. No, not quite. See what else we got. Not sure what that's for. Couple wrenches and a screwdriver, just basic stuff. Let's take a look at our air box here, make sure we don't have any rodents. It's made a home in here. Filter looks pretty good. Let's pop this bling nut off here and take a look. I don't see any mice nest or bird nest or anything in there, so that's a good sign. Filter's definitely a little bit dirty. We may be able to blow it out with the air compressor, bring that back around. So let me get y'all set up on a stand here. We'll tear into this carburetor, see if we can get this whole thing running. Start with the carburetor, see if we can figure out something for the battery, or we may be able to pull start it. We'll try the pull starting first. If that doesn't get it going, we'll find something for the battery. So let me get y'all on a stand and we'll dig into this carburetor. All right, let's dig into our carburetor here. We'll start by getting the throttle and the choke line off. Good and do. Let's see, we'll get this cover off first. All right, we got that cover off. I noticed the screw for the idle looks pretty new compared to the rest of the carburetor. I don't know if y'all can see that. Wonder if someone's been in here trying to get this carburetor to work. Anyways, we'll continue on getting this carburetor off here. Let's see. Looks like it's already pretty loose. Alright, got that off. Had to get a little bit violent with the pliers. That is removed. We'll put that little clip off to the side. Should be able to just twist this. Alright, we got the throttle cable off. Let's see if we can get these fuel lines off. Move on to this choke here. So that was pretty easy. We already got that carburetor off. Let's start working on getting this new carburetor hooked up. Go ahead and get our throttle slid in here. Alright, we got that throttle cable wrestled in there. I got the adjustment set to about where the old one was at, but let's pull our throttle up top here and see if we got full range on that throttle, which it looks like we do. So let's get this cover thrown back on here. Alright, we got a new cover on there. Let's get the choke cable put on, which looks like it fell off over there. Looks like we may need to replace this whole end piece. See if we got the right pieces for it in the box here. We may just have to pop this nut off of here and use the one that is on the old cable there. Looks like it's pretty loose. We may just be able to get it off with some needle nose pliers here. So it looks like on our new carburetor, we already have the spring and everything in there. Let's see if we can pop that out. Okay. So we do have our spring, and there's a little adjustment nut in there too. See if we can back that out of there and get our cable on it. May just need to, there you go. Just tap on it there to get it out. We could just reuse this old stuff, but we're already here. Might as well replace it. That spring looks like it has a little bit of wear on it. We are just going to reuse this old nut here. Try and get a little bit tight with the needle nose. The old one wasn't really too tight in there. Let's get our fuel lines hooked up. Let's see. So this part goes towards the engine. So this should be our left side right here. I believe this other one here goes on our other side. Pop these caps off of here. So like I said, this boot here on the engine, it looks to be in good condition, but we did get a new one. So we'll go ahead and swap it out. It looks like it takes some Allen keys there. Let me grab a couple of those and we'll get that old one pulled off. This might need a little bit of persuasion to come off. They've been through a lot of heat cycles. Oh, God, that one broke loose. Let's see if we can get this other one here. That one broke loose too. All right, we got that new boot on. Let's try and get our carburetor wrangled in there. May have to scoot that air box back a little bit. Looks like our bolts are already pulled off for that air box, so it shouldn't be too hard to get the carburetor down in there. Now, usually there's a mount that goes from the carburetor to the frame here, but it looks like we're missing that mount. I believe the air box and that boot on the engine there should hold it pretty firmly. So let's see if we can get this wrangled in there. So that wasn't too bad. Let's get these clamps tightened down on here. Looks like a pretty loose fit on the front there, but we may be able to take all that slop out by just cranking down on it. So that front one's pretty tight. It doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere. Let's see if we can get this back one tightened down. Had to hose this back clamp down with WD-40 off camera. Didn't want to turn. I'm not sure how long this thing's been sitting, but had a little bit of rust built up in there. So we'll get the gas tank slapped on here. I believe the here's the gas line that goes to the gas tank. So we'll get that slapped on there, get a little bit of gas thrown in that tank, and see if we can't get this thing to fire up. So we're just gonna temporarily get this gas tank on here just to see if we can get it to pop off. We'll do a little bit more permanent mounting here in a minute. if it does fire off. So we just got a little bit of gas in there. We'll see if we can switch it over to reserve. Not sure what the petcock is on right now. Usually these come with a little extension to go from that tank to the outside of this body. This one did not come with it, so we kind of got to dig down in there and try and get that turned. Dumped a bunch of gas all over that engine checking that petcock. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think we should be okay. Let's get our key thrown back in here. I do have a jump box that I believe we can just put on those leads just to test it out for now. Then we'll have to get another battery for it. So let me grab that. So we got our jump box connected to the leads down there. Let's see if we can get this thing to crank over. It cranks. Let's see if we can give it a little bit of gas. 1 and 2. Let's try it again. See if we can choke it. Sounded like it wanted to go there for a minute. Not 100% sure if we're even getting fuel. So I messed around with our fuel pump a little bit off camera. All of our lines do seem clear. I blew through them. Wasn't any blockages or anything. I do believe that these machines can run off of gravity fed. So I got the line going down to the carburetor that usually goes up to the fuel pump there. I got that disconnected, and we're going to see if we can just hook that straight into the fuel tank and see if that'll get us some fuel down to that carb. All right, that should get us fuel running down to the carb. Let's pull that line off down here though, just to double check. Okay, so we do have fuel coming down to the carb now. So let's get that sat back on there. Try and give it another crank, see what it does. Let's get our jump pack turned back on here. So it did pop off there for a minute. Let's give it another try, see if we can get it to stay running. All right. Didn't seem like it wanted to stay running. Let's see if we can mess with the throttle a little bit, keep it going. Well, it runs okay. It sounds like we have some significant noise coming from our transmission down here. So that may be the next thing we have to dig into here. I think our jump pack turned off. Yeah, looks like it fell down. All right, jump pack's hooked up. Let's see if we can pop it off one more time here. Seems to run okay. No smoke out of the tailpipe. Like I said, we have got a horrible noise coming from our transmission there. Hopefully, it's just a bad belt. That would be the ideal situation. Let's see if we can get this this back end tore off and open up that transmission cover and see what's going on. So I went ahead and got the rear section tore off. I got it sitting over there. It's pretty easy, just a couple of bolts holding it on. Let's dig into this transmission and see what's going on. It could just be something as simple as the belt is wore out. Let's tear into it and see what we can figure out. I believe it's just held on by a couple 10mm bolts here. So we'll get these popped off real quick and see what's going on back in there. So I got the cover off. I noticed the inside of it is pretty well eat up. Looks like that primary might have been hitting on it. Also, when I was taking it off, it looks like the kind of the backing plate that bolts to is pretty loose on the left side here. I'm not seeing any any attachment points where it connects to the four-wheeler, so it could just be that this thing's been sitting outside for a while and that case is warped a little bit. I'm kind of thinking that we screw a couple holes in it and just kind of zip tie it back. Not the right way, but $600 four-wheeler, a couple zip ties will get us by. Then that's what we'll do. So let me drill out a couple holes, get some zip ties thrown in there, and we'll get this thing fired back up and see if that takes care of our noise. All right, I got that backing plate zip tied on there. It's definitely a lot more sturdy than it was. I believe that should take care of our noise. Let's get our cover slapped back on here, get all the bolts in it. All right, so we got that cover thrown back on, got a couple zip ties in that base plate back and behind there. Let's fire it up and see if that took care of our transmission noise. Definitely a lot quieter. I believe that took care of our noise. Looks like all it was just that loose mounting bracket there for that cover. Must have been hitting on that primary, or that belt was hitting it. But we got that taken care of. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the petcock on the gas tank over there is pretty mangled up. You got to get it just in the right spot for it to start pouring gas out of it. All right, so let's get our petcock swapped out in the bottom of this tank here. Looks like it's just two Allen head bolts holding it on. Get these popped out real quick and get that new one put in there. This one looks pretty rough anyways. There's a lot of rust and sediment right there on that reserve pickup. So we'll get that swapped out. I believe the new one came with a gasket on it already. So it does already have the cork gasket on there. Let's get it dropped down in there. You definitely don't want to over tighten these screws because it looks like they're just threading into the plastic. So we'll just snug them down. Slap that on the four-wheel. I bought a new one of the one of the knobs that go from that petcock to the outside of the body there. So we'll get that thrown on there too. This end of it just slots over top of that, and then it extends it out there to the body so you can switch on off and in reserve. So we'll go over there, get all this put on. Just goes through this hole. Put the washer on. Looks like this knob only goes on one way. And then just a tiny little washer and screw to hold that knob on this side. Kind of go through some of this wiring and clean it up a little bit. Like I said, these white ones, they look like they run from that tail light harness up to a 12-volt outlet up front. We don't really have a use for it, so we're just gonna cut them and just pull them out. Pull the wires to the back here. And then let me grab a couple zip ties. We'll get all those wires zip tied up to the frame here. With my pliers back here. This may take a little bit of maneuvering to get this tank set down in here. Line up our shutoff switch here. All right, I went ahead and got the rear section put back on. Got the air box on. Let's finish closing it up. I got one of these big zip ties. I had another one on there, just a plain old zip tie, so that's what we'll go back with. I'm missing a lot of the bolts that is supposed to be with this. I don't have any of the gas tank bolts. I'm missing all the bolts for the side pieces and the front cover and everything like that. So we're just gonna zip tie everything on there for now, until I can find a bolt kit for this thing. It's got this front section put on. I believe there's a headlight connector. May have to pull it back off a little bit to get the headlight hooked up. Get our keychain out of the way there. So we got that on. See if we can slip the gas tank surround on here. It's not on there super solid, but solid enough for us to test this thing out. Let's get our side pieces on. This is the left side. All right, we got a couple of gallons of gas in there. Let's put our gas cap back on. Make sure our tank is turned on. I don't know if we have enough gas in there for on to work, so we may have to run it on reserve. And I did top off the oil off camera. That was a little bit low. It took about 3/4 of a quart. So let's fire it up and see if we can't take it for a spin. We still don't have a battery for it yet, so we're going to try and pull start it. So we may have to get the jump pack out again, but we're going to give it a try with pull starting. Make sure our brake is off. Check reverse. Works good. Definitely have a little bit of top end tick. We'll take it out here into the backfield and see what this thing will do. Other than the tick, it seems to run pretty good. It's got tons of power. Looks like our speedometer does work. We got it up to about 15 mile an hour. Let's take it back over to the house, spray it down with some degreaser, and get this thing cleaned up. All right, so we got it back in the shop here. I'm kind of wondering if part of the ticking noise is partly my fault. Um, Whenever I topped it off with oil, I used this ATV UTV 4-stroke 10W40. Um, I looked it up online, and it said 5W50 is ideal to use on these, which I couldn't find any of that in the store. So I found some 5W40. Might make a little bit of a difference. With it being an older machine, though, I did buy some motor honey to toss in there too. So we'll suck this oil out. I'm not really sure where the dipstick is at on this. So I got this oil transfer pump here, so we'll just suck it out through the top and swap that oil out real quick, see if we can get rid of that tick. Still a good amount of ticking. Let's check our level and see where we're at. All right, now that we got the oil changed out, there's a couple of grease zerks that I want to go around and hit. We got one right there, one on the A arm on that side, and then same on this other side. Then we got a big one over here. Let me see if I can get y'all in there. I don't know if you can see that, but there's one right there on the back axle. So we'll hit all those real quick, and that should just about wrap up this four-wheeler. All right, with fresh grease in all those joints, we're gonna get the coolant topped off. Y'all remember it was a little bit low. It's not too bad, but it's about an inch down from the top in the radiator, and there's nothing in the reservoir, so we'll get a little bit more in there. All right, we got the radiator topped off. Let's move over here to the coolant reservoir and get that topped off. We'll fill it up about halfway between the min and the max. That should be perfect right there. Well, with that, guys, we're done with this project. This 95 Polaris Magnum 2x4. We didn't have to do a whole lot to it. We changed out the carburetor. We topped off some fluids. We greased some joints. We had to do a little bit of work to that transmission cover. We had to zip tie down that backing plate. That wasn't too big of a deal. Other than that, it runs pretty good. It's a pretty solid machine. I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see you in the next one.